Welcome back to GBN America with me, Patrick Christys. Now, blink and you'll miss it when it comes to the royal news. There is a heck of a lot of it about. Prince Harry, in a roundabout way, is back in court again over his cocaine, marijuana and psychedelic drug use. And former President Donald Trump has come out and said Harry would be on his own if he manages to make it back into the White House. What does this mean for Prince Harry's chances of staying in America and, of course, his relationship with Meghan Markle? But back here, closer to home, in London, the royal family have been plagued by mystery illnesses and mystery personal issues. Here to shine a light on what could be going on is GB News' wonderful royal correspondent. It's Cameron Walker. Cameron.
Hi, Patrick. Great to be here.
Look, let's start with the latest stateside then. I mean, former President Trump appears to have said that Harry will be out on his own. I know there's a court case going on at the moment in relation to his previous drug use. What's going on?
Yeah, there certainly is, Patrick. So the Heritage Foundation, which is a right-wing think tank based in Washington, D.C., they are taking the Department for Homeland Security to court over Prince Harry's visa situation. Now, of course, the Department of Homeland Security is Democrat-led at the moment. And the allegation is that President Biden and his staff are keeping Prince Harry safe or giving him special treatment after he has admitted to drug use, illegal drug use, in his memoir Spare. Now, lawyers for the Department of Homeland Security have come out and said, well, he may have written it in his book, but that's not actually concrete proof that he has taken drugs. That was the first thing they said. They also said the reason that that visa application is not public knowledge is because Prince Harry has the rights to privacy and his visa application remains private property of Prince Harry. Now, why do we care about this? The reason being is, if you're applying for a visa in the United States, if you have admitted illegal drug use, technically, you are not allowed in the United States unless you've got a very, very specific waiver. And that is why the Heritage Foundation wants that information released, to see either if Prince Harry lied on his application and said that he has not taken any illegal drugs, or he has told the truth, in which case the question is, why has the Department of Homeland Security given Prince Harry a waiver, or have they turned a blind eye because he is a prince of the realm? So they're the allegations. There's no suggestion that Prince Harry has lied on his visa application, but of course it remains secret and we simply don't know.
No, and so what could the upshot of this be then? Would it mean that Harry would potentially be deported from America? I mean, what could happen?
Well, former President Trump, who could well be president be elected in November and then become president next January, has indicated very strongly that Prince Harry would not be safe if he becomes president of the United States again. So the quote from former President Trump is, "I wouldn't protect him. He betrayed the Queen." That's unforgivable. He would be on his own if it was down to me. So that's pretty strong words from President Trump there. Would that be a priority for President Trump? I suspect not. I think a vast majority of Americans would want him to do something about the Mexico-US border first, rather than one individual. But of course, the fact that he's decided to speak publicly about this, Mr. Trump, suggests to me that he could well make a point of this, make a point of Prince Harry, which would be, let's be frank, a bit of a disaster for Harry, because he could well be kicked out the United States. He, of course, has two very young children and a wife in California. But would the US government, regardless whether it's Trump or Biden in office come next year, really want to kick Harry out and break up a very young family? I suspect not, to be honest. I think the UK-US relationship, that special relationship, is still pretty strong. And okay, Prince Harry, his opinion polls are not great on either side of the Atlantic, and he's no longer a working member of the royal family, but he is still the king's son. The king still very much loves his son, and I don't think that would do much if Harry is kicked out and forced back to Britain for that relationship. So I suspect it's not going to come down to that, but of course it is a possibility.
Well, watch this space. But look, closer to home where I am, anyway, here in London, Prince William has withdrawn from a memorial service to his godfather, who was King Constantine of Greece, citing personal reasons. Now, we know there's a lot going on with the royal family at the moment, don't we? Kate's obviously not been well. She's recovering. The king, of course, undergoing treatment for mysterious cancer that we don't know exactly what that is. What do we think's gone on here? What are personal reasons?
Yeah, it's really, really odd, Patrick, and it was so last minute. We had 45 minutes before the start of the service when we found out that Prince William would no longer be attending. His name was printed in the order of service because he was meant to be doing a reading. So this was incredibly last minute. I'm assured that the Princess of Wales is still doing well, which suggests to me it's nothing to do with Kate. I've also understand that Prince William's absence is nothing to do with King Charles's health either. As you said, he has cancer and therefore is not attending any public engagements at the moment. So the question is, well, what on earth is it? Surely they would tell us if it's a major medical issue, so it appears that's not the case. But the fact that it was such a last-minute cancellation suggests that it was pretty significant. There is a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, though. I understand that this is the only engagement of Prince William's that's affected by this, quote, personal issue. He has future engagements in the diary, and I understand that they are not going to be affected. So I don't think it's major cause for alarm, but what it does show us is that this slimmed down monarchy, which has become very, very slim indeed in the last month or two, is quite fragile because we only had one senior member of the royal family, British royal family, in attendance today at this memorial service for King Constantine of Greece, who was Prince William's godfather before he passed away, and that was Queen Camilla. So she was very much holding the fort, but we had William out of action, Kate out of action, and the King.
We did see Prince Andrew though, didn't we? And Fergie and the Tyndalls in tow as well. So Prince Andrew, I believe as well, was at the front of the pack after they got bust into this particular memorial service, wasn't he?
Yeah, I was stunned. He was front row, sitting 5 seats away from Queen Camilla. Completely extraordinary. Of course, we have to remember this service was essentially a private family event for members of various royal families across Europe. So although Prince Andrew's no longer a working royal, he is invited to these private family functions, although I do understand that it was the Greek royal family that invited him rather than the British royal family. But you could see it, couldn't you? You had him walking past the cameras with Fergie, very much perhaps giving the impression that they're a little bit back into the royal fold, and then, of course, sat on the front row. Whether or not King Charles is happy about that, of course, we probably will never find out, but of course it's on this backdrop of Prince Harry having to leave Prince Andrew even having to leave the royal family in disgrace with all the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, and him giving the appearance of wanting to be a prominent member of the royal family again. Of course, that's incredibly unlikely to happen. I don't think King Charles would ever do that, and Prince William certainly would never do that when he becomes king. But perhaps a nice little day out for Prince Andrew and Sarah, Duchess of York.
Exactly. Cameron, thank you very much as ever. That is the wonderful Cameron Walker there, GB News' royal correspondent. I'll see you next time, Cameron.
See you next time.
Well, switching gears from royals to the presidency of the United States now, I'm going to be talking to a man who regular viewers here at GBN America will hold dear. This guy never holds back. He's always known for his incisive commentary, and crucially, he doesn't mind winding up the Liberals. It is, of course, the Daily Wire's host of the Michael Knowles Show, the man himself, Michael Knowles. Michael, pleasure to have you on the show. Now, you are fresh off the back of another rip-roaring CPAC speech where you did what you do best, OK? Getting under the skin of the Liberals, getting under the skin of the Democrats. What did you say, and why was it so controversial?
I made a pretty shocking claim at CPAC this year. I claimed that marriage is an institution that's been around a long time. It's actually a natural institution. And it's an institution that involves both a man and a woman. Now, I made some other claims in my speech, which I thought the Liberals would take greater issue with. I claimed that America has not always been a nation of immigrants. I've claimed that diversity is not always our strength. I thought they might focus on that. But no, they focused on my audacious claim, which statistically every single person on earth has believed in forever, everywhere, which is that marriage involves a man and a woman. It was very strange because the Biden campaign attacked me for this, and then the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, attacked me for this. But the fact that the criticism would come out of the Biden White House was strange because Joe Biden himself agreed with everything I said until about 2011.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I believe he's just done a rather sickening article saying that the key to a happy life is lots of sex, which makes the mind boggle, really, when it comes to Joe Biden. But, I mean, what's the pushback really been on this that you've received when it comes to your traditional conservative approach to marriage?
And again, I mean, I guess by today's standards, the idea that marriage involves both a man and a woman is considered quite right-wing and traditional. But it is something that virtually every single person on earth agreed with until roughly, I don't know, 2014, 2015. And so when they accuse us of trying to take society back to the 1850s or the 1950s, really, in my point on marriage, we would only be going back to about 2014, but that's how quickly the liberals move to the left these days. I can't help but notice that I speak on a whole lot of topics all around the country. The ones they focus on are always the sexual topics. And in part, maybe it's because these Democrats are just obsessed with sex. Joe Biden said it's the key to a happy life and a happy marriage. But in part, I think it's because the difference between men and women and men being from Mars and women from Venus, birds do it, bees do it, even sentimental trees do it, that lies at the very heart of human nature. And so what radicals on the left have understood for centuries now is that if you want to transform human nature, one very effective way to do that is to change the way that family operates, family being the bedrock political institution, and the way that we relate to sex, which is why you see the push for radical sexual indoctrination in elementary schools. It's why you see this constant sort of sexual propaganda in the media. And it's why they get really angry when little old me shows up to CPAC and says that marriage is what marriage naturally is and always has been.
Do you think it's because they can't really fight you anymore on illegal immigration or diversity being America's greatest strength?
I think they know that this is a big weakness for them. The immigration issue has always put the liberals in a tough spot because they have openly, proudly declared that immigration is their path to a permanent electoral majority. If they just don't enforce the immigration laws, if they continue to increase legal immigration and then allow many more millions of illegal immigrants to come in every year, then statistically it's likely to give them a permanent electoral advantage. But they know that the American people don't like this because it's lawless. It means that we don't control the most basic aspects of our own law. It messes up the labor market. It brings in all sorts of crime. The entire southern border is controlled by the criminal cartels. So every aspect of illegal immigration has a criminal element. I think they know they have to back away from that a little bit. I think they know that the diversity, equity, and inclusion programs that they have been foisting in recent years are deeply unpopular. And I think that their bet here is that if they appeal to the prurient interest, the sort of thing that titillates teenage boys, then they won't need to really make any more rational arguments. And then it will give them a much more fundamental political revolution because they'll be revolutionizing the family, which is the basic unit of society.
Yeah, and therein it all breaks down. And if they break it down, they get total control. But there are tragic consequences to this ideology, certainly when it comes to illegal immigration. I'm reading here about the murder of Georgia College student Laken Riley last week, apparently. I believe that their only crime was for the 22-year-olds to go for a jog before being killed by a Venezuelan who entered the US illegally. I mean, these are just the ones we hear about, of course. I mean, you could probably rattle off hundreds of these examples. But the liberal media are very quiet on this case, are they? Presumably because it doesn't suit their narrative?
Of course they are. The only crime cases that the liberal media will ever report on are the rare cases of a young white man going in and shooting people. But all of the other crime cases that constitute the vast majority of crime in the United States, that doesn't fit the liberals' identity politics narrative. So then what the liberals will say is that illegal immigrants statistically are no more likely or not much more likely than the native population to commit crime. This varies widely by group and by geography, but even if that were true, that totally misses the point. Every crime that is committed by an illegal alien in the United States was an unnecessary crime. Every single one is gratuitous because these people are not supposed to be here. And it is simply a fact that the President of the United States has invited these people here. We're talking about, in the span of 3 years, 6 million foreign nationals entering our country illegally. That is much higher than anything we saw under Trump, much higher than anything we saw under Obama. And even Trump and Obama's numbers were much higher than what we had seen previously. This problem has gotten a lot worse. Even as President Trump tried to stop it, the bureaucracy forced that border to remain open. So much so that when the state of Texas builds its own fences to keep the illegal invasion out, the federal government, the Biden administration, will send federal agents in to remove that fence to allow the invasion to go on unmolested. And so it is in no way hyperbole to say that the Biden administration and its allies have blood on their hands for the crimes committed by the illegal aliens that they've invited in.
Yeah, and there's a complicity here, isn't there, in it all, and to go to that extra step of deliberately removing any kind of fences, and then people get called, crazy, kooky conspiracy theories when they start to say, well, hang on a minute, is there some kind of plan here going on? Is there some kind of replacement theory taking place here? But I'll just move on to another important issue, an issue that's very close to my heart, and it's this decline of religiosity lying at the heart of America's identity crisis. So you argue, as I understand it anyway, that America was founded as a Christian nation, but liberals are now denying this, saying that the US is secular, etc. I mean, do you think that the decline in quote-unquote Christian culture is also kind of mirroring the decline of, I would say, American, but arguably also Western civilization?
Of course, the two are totally inseparable. And this was actually the heart of my CPAC speech. I said that our confusion over gender, our confusion over marriage, our confusion over what sort of nation we are, our lack of borders even, that speaks to a deeper crisis, which is a crisis of identity. We no longer know who we are. And at the bottom of that has got to be this religious confusion, not only because America was founded explicitly to be a Christian nation, a shining city on a hill, a model of Christian charity, a nation founded by people who called themselves pilgrims, or who were referred to by history as pilgrims, but also because, as Moses shows us at the burning bush, when Moses is at the burning bush, he's talking to God. He says, "What shall I tell the Israelites that your name is?" And God says, "I am that I am." That's the name he gives, meaning that God is being. And as a very wise priest friend of mine once observed, a people that identifies itself in God will know who it is. And a people that rejects God will be left with a very pathetic question: who am I? People who don't ground their identity in the source of all being they're going to end up like teenagers who try on a new personality every week. This week they're painting their nails black. Next week they're hippies. It's very pathetic. There will be a restlessness to that. But nations are going to be animated by some sort of spirit or other. A nation is physical, it's the land, the geography, the industry, but a nation is metaphysical too. There's a body and there's a soul. So what the liberals want us to believe is that we don't have a soul anymore, that the soul is just, pursuing our appetites, that America is nothing other than geography. You can even, to your point, replace the people and the country won't change at all. But what we're talking about here is the soul of America. We'll either be a godly country or we'll be some other kind of country. But cult and culture come from the same root word. So what the culture worships is going to define that culture. If we worship money, we're going to be materialistic. If we worship sex, we're going to be licentious. If we worship God, we're going to be a godlier country. And even if you don't consider yourself the most religious person in the world, that's probably going to be a better country. It's probably going to be more conducive to your flourishing. Yeah. That has been historically in America. The decline of our happiness is directly tied to that decline of religion.
Well, you can almost mirror nationhood to personal feeling, right? When you lose yourself and you lose your own personal identity, you kind of bumble around and you feel terribly lost. And if you lose your national identity, then you don't have any roots to cling on to anymore. And that's why we end up in this situation. But Michael, look, thank you very, very much. It's always really insightful talking to you. I love the way that you phrase things. I love the way you look at the world. It's Michael Knowles there, reacting initially to his speech at CPAC, but also making some very profound points for us here at GBN America. I'll see you next time, Michael.
Thanks so much for having me. Great to be with you.